But then he
That's what
started
it's really
digging
about.
and actually like got somewhere.
I don't know about that.
It seemed like he got somewhere. Their 9/11, whatever, like festivities. You don't want to say that word. You know what I mean? Like 9/11 celebration. You know, like I love hearing these young comics be like, I don't care if they like me or not. Like, you probably should.
Yeah, that's it.
Like, that's our whole business. Like, how are you going to get booked at a club? Because there's people at work where I'm like, oh, you do comedy? Do you know that guy with the puppets?
Yes, dude, Jeff Dunham.
I was like, you don't even know his name. That's fantastic. He made $40 million last year.
Sells arenas.
You don't even know his name.
Canaan Show.
Hi, and welcome to episode 11 of Canaan Show. The following is a conversation with Drew Harrison. Drew, originally from North Carolina as a comic, just moved to Nashville a couple years ago, and he's been doing great while he's been here. Drew's hilarious. We had a really fun conversation, really the most like just about comedy conversation I think I've probably ever had on this podcast. I mean, we really went through a lot of things, just talking about like what it's been like, what it will be like. Relationships. He talks a lot about his wife in this. We talk about relationships within comedy in general. We had a really, really fun conversation, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you do, consider sharing this video with one of your friends or subscribing to support the channel. Other than that, I appreciate your interest, and I hope you enjoy this conversation with Drew Harrison.
Canaan Show.
That was good, man.
Welcome, Mr. Drew.
Well, thank you.
Welcome to also, I feel like you're the first person, I think, that I've had on that is like now in Nashville, that is like come to Nashville and was already kind of a comic before you came.
Yeah.
Like, and that's happened a decent amount during COVID, but you came like right before, right?
Yeah, we got here September of 19.
Yeah, so you were like...
just dipped my toes in,
yeah.
started to know people, and then they're like, never mind, shut down.
It's all done.
I remember being at Comedy Bar.
That last
the night
Thursday?
that they pulled, we were watching them pull the players off of the court in NBA, and we were like, what?
Yeah.
What
NBA
shutting down?
Yeah,
What's going
dude,
on?
That was crazy. I mean, like, once the sports thing happened, everyone in comedy was like, it's over.
It's
and
over.
it might never come back. Like,
I love that was the initial wave. Like,
was the first,
if I never get to do comedy again.
Yeah. It's like, this pandemic is going to last for 80 years. And no one is ever going to be in a building together ever again.
We went the two extremes so quickly. Like, when it first happened, we were like, 2 weeks, whatever. And then those 2 weeks set in and be like, we're never getting out of the house again.
It really was a fast, like, the 2 week thing, it was remarkable how fast that just went and was just gone.
Yeah.
It was like a week into the 2 week thing, people were like, nah, I don't think it's going to be 2 weeks. It was already...
They keep saying people are getting sicker. I don't know if they're going to let us out of the house.
And now this Delta thing, it just never feels like it's going to end.
And I mean, I was on the road with Will Abels, and just seeing the different, like, this city would be open, but this city wouldn't be. You know what I mean? So, like, it's definitely, like, the weird variations.
Exactly. Like, you go to, like, I remember being in Memphis in September of 2020, and there was, like, nothing.
Yeah.
And I was down there because I was working a job for the Census Bureau at the time.
Yeah.
And I did one show that was, like, at this place called Comedy Junt, and that was it. And that was, like, the only thing that was even in existence. Yeah. It was, like, I'd finished for the day, and if I was done, there was I couldn't even go anywhere. It was like there wasn't even places open to go hang out or anything. No. Like, it was...
It's so weird trying to get food late night right now.
Oh,
like,
yeah, because used to it was everywhere.
Yeah.
You could, I mean, like all of the fast food places are just like 10 o'clock. I think we're going to be done now.
We're going to shut down.
Yeah,
you know how we used to be open until 2?
No. Yeah, that is... Which is such like a funny thing to complain about, but that's part of the thing about being in a city that like is good about being here is that you can kind of keep the weirder hours. It's like, I don't live where I came from because everything shuts down at 10.
It does.
That's the whole point.
It's I mean, we're creatures of habit, you know what I mean? So like, I don't like to eat before a show, so I love doing a show then eating afterwards on the way back to the hotel or like wherever you're staying.
Eating
like
after a show is one of the most especially if the show went well and then you get to
and it's got to be terrible food.
Oh yeah, it can't be like
I'm not eating broccoli.
Yeah, you're not getting a salad
unless it's fried like at Fat Cats.
Fat Cats does do
that.
Have you had the fried
broccoli?
Oh my gosh. Fried block, they'll deep fry anything now. Once they deep fried an Oreo, people are like, you can deep fry anything. Like that was the first thing I feel like.
Yeah,
you remember that?
I went to the North Carolina Fair.
Oh yeah, because I meant to say that originally. You were originally from the North Carolina, right?
Yeah, Wilmington.
Yeah.
They were deep frying ice cream. And we were like, how are you doing this?
Yeah.
And I mean, it's one of those things where they just slop it in front of you, like, don't ask any questions.
Yeah.
You're like, all right. It's the greatest thing in the world. I'd imagine they get it to, like, ice blocks and then just, like, flash fry it real quick.
Liquid nitrogen.
is
Liquid
that what it
nitrogen.
is?
Any stuff like that they have to use liquid nitrogen to get it really, really cold before they fry it. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Okay, all right.
What about like butter? I've never eaten it, but did you have
Deep fried, but I've seen it, but I was like, I can only push my boundaries so
dude,
far.
I don't know. I kind of hoped that I was gonna ask you. I was like, I hope you've tried it.
I definitely eat things that I don't care about that I don't care about my long term health whatsoever.
But that's
deep
like
fried butter. I just gotta draw the line somewhere.
that's like a heart attack tab. Like there's tabs for like acid or whatever. That's a heart attack tab.
That's
so
too much.
Boom, and your heart's gonna explode.
Yeah,
that feels
like if I wasn't married and didn't have like someone like that cared about me, probably. But like I just heard her in the back of my mind, like deep fried butter, Drew.
Yeah, deep fried butter. Is that a good conscience to have? Because I feel like
Oh,
you're
for sure.
aware of this, that not a lot of comedians do the whole marriage game.
Yeah, no, it's
Especially
one of those things.
you're.
Well, I mean, this is the second marriage.
Okay.
So
Well,
the first one
you're playing the game.
Yeah, I'm
No,
playing
kidding.
percentages here. You know?
No.
No, first wife, comedy definitely hurt the relationship for sure. You know, she wasn't a big fan of the being gone long times and being alone and things like that. But me and my wife now, we went into it with a very adult headspace. You
And
know what I mean?
after having already, for lack of a better term, had that fail.
Yeah, right. I knew what not to do.
Exactly. It's like you knew all the things to go like, hey, for this next person,
Right.
this is
we talked about every angle. Like,
Right.
well, what if this happens? Well, what if this happens?
Right.
Are you cool with this? Are you cool with that? I was like, I've put, December will be 10 years in comedy, so for me. So I was like, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Like, I love
You're
you.
down the
and
road
I want to
now.
see this,
Yeah.
but this is what I'm doing.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
she was like, I'm completely on board. I don't ever want to get in your way. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? I just did 12 days on the road,
and totally cool.
yeah, she of course was missed me and was happy when I
Sure.
was home, as was I. But she wasn't like, why aren't you home?
Right.
It was great.
And how is that like while you're away? Is it like is it hard? Like, are you just like texting all the time? Like,
I mean, we definitely make a rule to like FaceTime each other, like see each other's face once a day.
that's good.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that way it keeps it, the love alive, I guess, for lack
keep
of
a little
better
bit of effort into the game.
Yeah, it's not like, oh, you've been gone for 2 weeks. Oh, I didn't even notice. Like, that would be tough.
Well, because that's what I was like. Because that also feels like you see some people in there, and you hope for everybody, and then like you meet their significant others or something, and you're like, uh-oh.
Yeah. We've all been at that comedy show where the girlfriend's or the boyfriend's a little bit angry, and you're just like, they're gonna have fun at the ride home. You know, like I've definitely seen comedy destroy many a relationship.
So then, how did you meet this wife? How did you introduce the whole like this is my weird ass life thing?
The great thing about it is we've known each other for 16 years.
Oh,
well, actually, probably 20 years.
So you
now.
grew up around each other.
Yeah, we went to the same high school.
Oh,
We
okay.
dated for like 2 weeks in high school.
Oh,
but
okay. So it
realized
was a
we were
little
better
bit of
friends.
like a.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
So she saw me start like comedy and knew that I was like it wasn't just like oh, you're a comedian. You know what I mean? Like she saw the evolution of the whole thing.
Right.
So she's always been a big supporter. So like she was like, I can't switch that now. She's like, I've always told you to go for this, but now that we're in a relationship, I can't be like,
especially
nah, never mind.
feels even more. It feels better, even I would say, in like in your mind almost that like she knew you beforehand.
Exactly.
I don't know why that's a fear, and I don't know where it started coming from, but I know that exact fear of like it feels weird to like meet a person like this.
It does.
It does.
Like before, like she was like, okay, I knew high school you.
Yeah, exactly.
I knew college you.
Right.
But now, comic you.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
She's like, I've seen the whole phase, and she's the first one to admit she's like, comedy brought you out of your shell. She's like, because I used to be a quiet kid. I never talked. Like,
I mean, and like you don't have like an overly look at me sort of personality. Yeah, I mean, even on stage, you're not like
that's and this is way more. Hey, look at me than I used to be.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
that almost shows that like it makes sense. But that's also part of the fun of like a guy like that. Like whenever you can bust out of a thing like that, like there's plenty of comics that you see now that are like newer than you that are in that same thing. It's like, dude, once you become more able to just be you up in front of people and do that whole thing. It's going to open you up to being,
you know?
yeah, exactly.
Like,
there's so much of that is.
You think early on you got to be a character. You think you got to be a different version of yourself. And then that one day where you're just, I heard Ben Roy say it best out of Colorado. He's like, be the person you're having a conversation with all the comics in the back, and just walk that up on stage. And instead of talking to the other comics, you're just talking to the audience.
Right.
And he's like, it's so hard to figure that out. But then when you figure that out, it clicks.
It doesn't even feel right, like, especially like starting. It doesn't feel right to be yourself. Right. It feels like there's no way that they're
gonna
like
this.
Exactly.
They're not gonna like me.
Me?
I don't even like me most of the time.
Yeah, exactly. I'm my own biggest. Everybody hates themselves plenty. Yeah. So it's like
I watched me and one of the just random nights on tour. Me and Will Abels were looking at old videos of ourselves that we are for whatever reasons just haven't pulled from YouTube or whatever. And I watched the video. It was like my third time ever on stage.
And you posted that?
A buddy posted it.
Oh, okay. I was like, that is brave.
My very first time on stage is on his YouTube page.
Oh, my God.
I keep messing with him, like, take it down. He's like, no. I was like, all right. But it's just cringeworthy. The topics I talked about. B, how much like fidgeting I'm doing. I'm always like,
how uncomfortable you obviously
like this.
are.
What is this hand doing? I don't know what this hand's doing.
Is the mic stand in front of you?
Right here. Just,
oh yeah.
Just maneuvering the mic stand.
Gear shifted the mic stand.
Just cringeworthy.
Yeah,
man. You're just like, that's not me at all. I don't know what I thought I was doing up there, but that's not me. That's not who I want to be.
I think I might have sat down the first time I ever was on stage, and the biggest reason was I started standing, and then I had written on like a notebook like the things I was gonna say, and the stool was too short, and I couldn't see from where I was down to where my writing was, and I didn't want to just hold it standing, so I sat down and I put it on my leg so it wouldn't be as far.
There you go.
And I tried it like that.
Hey, that's a big thing that you adapted early on.
But
most people would have been like,
yeah, but I sat down like an idiot. Like that's even worse. It's like there's one thing of like and like plus you could bend over, look at a fucking open mic. Like
you can even hold it if you want to.
I'm not at Zany's doing this. I'm saying I'm at Bobby's. I'm fucking like eight comics and 3 guys that would rather me not be there, and and that's it. True. And that's what I'm doing, sitting down in front of them. It was oh god, dude. Yeah. Okay. So
you should never have to go back and watch early you.
No, I mean
it was a terrible experiment, and I don't ever want to do it again.
Yeah, and like I can even feel myself as I'm talking about it. I'm like, thinking about it.
My skin was crawling.
Yeah, exactly, dude. I
noticed the drink I had at that time was getting lower and lower. Like every line I said, I was like,
oh my god. Okay, so how was the little run that you guys did, you and Will?
Oh, it was great, man. We started off in Raleigh. And had a show in Raleigh it was the first time the venue did vax card requirements. So of course you're gonna take a hit.
You're gonna do a little bit of that,
but still for that restriction, we had a pretty good turnout to start the show. And then we went to Wilmington, my old home club, Dead Crow, which was their like grand reopening.
Oh, cool.
They built like this compound. It's got like an indoor bar, a showroom, an outdoor beer garden. Like it's magnificent.
Really? Yeah. It's exclusively a comedy thing?
Yeah. So they're a regular bar during the day, and then they do the showroom. Like they wanted to have the revenue coming in regular hours.
I mean, and that makes sense. Like you'd think that like it's all right there. And now if you're an A-tier club or whatever, and you're like running shows in the evenings and you make that money, like then it's fine. But I mean, if like for smaller rooms and stuff, there was a club. I feel like I saw you maybe do this Blue Ridge Comedy.
No, but I know I'm
that guy.
Hopefully
from,
going to be doing the
yeah, dude. So I'm from there, and I was in home. I went back for a funeral, but I went.
Fun time.
Fun time. But I went and a couple times because Corey Knox. I didn't even know that it was there.
Yeah.
And Corey Knox was there. Happened to be the same weekend that I was in.
Nice.
And so I see him posting about it. I'm like, what the hell is this?
Like,
it's 20 minutes from where I grew up.
Fantastic.
And I know the exact spot where it's at. So I went over and I watched his show, and he opened for that girl. I can't remember.
I've seen her face before.
You know who I'm talking about?
I know who.
Oh my god, I think her name was like Elle or something.
Yeah.
But she was great. She was really good, and the room was fun. Yeah. And then I went back for their open mic. It was like the next Wednesday because I was there for a while.
Yeah.
And it was just this one guy that runs it, who's from Boston. He's good too. He's been doing it for like 15
That's how
years.
I know about it. Is him and Will did comedy in Boston together.
Oh, that would make sense.
So when we were on the run, Corey was texting Will about the whole thing. So that's how.
Cool. Okay, that makes perfect sense. So because and he was good, and he ran it and everything. And I guess what he's doing is like training up people that are locals.
I mean, it shows when a comic runs a place. You know
and effectively does it. Like it's not.
We've all seen the comic. You shouldn't be a comic nor running this place.
But like he did a really good job with the whole setup of the place. And what was I gonna say about? Oh yeah, it was just like being no. What? How did we get to that? Why did I?
Make it be like smaller rooms staying over.
Oh yes, because like that was perfect, because all it is, it's like, you know how Third Coast is like in Marathon, and there's like a bunch of shit in there. That's basically what this room is. It's like this building that is like on the main drag of Bristol, and it's like got all this other shit in it, and they just have this back room, and they have a bar, fantastic. And they just run the shows in the evenings and stuff.
I love places like that.
It's awesome.
Have you done like it's Epic Comedy Hour in Huntsville?
No, but I know what you're talking about.
It's like that. It's like in a theater inside an old like manufacturing factory, and they just like split it up. Like you got this, and they're like, here's a theater.
That's great.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah, I mean, like I just saw. Did you see that Bert Kreischer just did the Red Rocks thing?
No, I love that.
I had not seen pictures of that venue before until he posted them, and I was talking about it, and I've been hearing like this is like the craziest looking theater place ever, and I didn't know what it was, and then I saw those pictures and I was like, oh my god, dude, it's like in a mountain.
Gorgeous.
It's like it feels like you're in Lord of the Rings almost. Shit. Like that place is crazy.
Like I feel like it's one like they used to film like old westerns, like popping up out of the rocks, like two gunslingers like squaring off. Hay bell goes flying by.
So you were in Raleigh, Wilmington. Where else did you go?
Then we went. Will got into the North Carolina Comedy Festival.
Oh, cool.
So we did Monday and Wednesday there, and I just went and hung out. And then since I hung out Monday, the Jenny Stencil, the owner of Idiot Box, which runs the festival, hit me up and was like, hey, you want to do a spot on Wednesday? I was like, oh, cool. Hell yeah. So and then we did my hometown of Southern Pines, North Carolina on Tuesday.
On a Tuesday?
Yeah, on a Tuesday.
Where was that at?
It was at this place called Legends Bar and Grill.
Legends. You know we got a Legends in Nashville. Legends Corner.
Nice.
That's on. It's like you know where the Apple Store is?
Okay. Yeah.
It's literally on that. Like if you're looking at the Apple Store and you go across 5th to the corner right there on Broadway,
nice.
That's Legends Corner.
All right. Well, Legends Corner. If you want to do a show, hit us up.
Dude, I would love to do. That would be one of the few rooms down there because it's like one of the low ceiling rooms. Perfect. And they have a stage for obviously music and everything. It is actually a really good. I'd love to do that, but I don't think that they would have no reason. That's the only thing about being in Nashville is no one has any reason.
Right. They just get some.
Why would you ever book comedy if you can book music?
It's tough.
It's especially down
battle.
there. Yeah. Down there, it's like if you're in East,
it's like Music Row,
whatever. But like down on Broadway, yeah.
And we did Southern Pines Tuesday, back to Greensboro on Wednesday. Thursday and Friday we were in Laughing Skull in Atlanta.
Oh, cool.
So that was pretty awesome.
Was it? Then, and that was all good and stuff down there in Atlanta now, because I heard that there was not much going on for a long time.
And then Ian Aber also has a show at this bar that's like set up like a church. So it's a church bar. And we did a show there on Thursday too. But Thursday we're all hanging out in the green room, and the manager comes up to us and he's like, hey guys, supposed to do 10 tonight, we're cutting y'all back down to 7, we got a surprise guest. And we all were like, oh, okay, all right. Like we're already hanging out in the green room with Rob Hayes and Clayton English and David Perdue, so I'm already on cloud 9 to begin with. And then Nimesh Patel and Michael Che come strolling in, and they both did 20 minutes. So I was like,
God.
Cool.
Yeah, dude, let that happen. Yeah, and that was where at now?
Laughing Skull.
Oh, that was the Laughing Skull. Oh, yeah. I mean,
they did the Omni. And then after the Omni, they came over to the Laughing Skull.
That's so
and like they had to like go out and before Michael Che and be like, no recording. If we see you recording, we're gonna have to
kick you that.
Yeah. So it was official, man. I felt like the Secret Service came in and did like a quick sweep. Like,
yeah. You fucking.
Yeah, like don't you.
He's not trying to get Shane Gillis.
Right. He's like, I have a TV job that I really like.
Yeah.
It was great, man.
I mean, that has to be. I'm sure that they were great.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
The audience was weird, though, man. I wanted to run out and be like, do you realize what you're watching right now? Like, they just, like, they tried to, like, mess with him. Like, not mess with him, but, like, you know, I'm part of the show. at the beginning, and it got weird. Like it brought the energy.
Like we're
weird.
here too.
Yeah, he's like, oh, I was just gonna talk, but y'all gonna talk? Okay.
Oh man, that's awesome.
But it was great. And then we finished up. We had Saturday off, 9/11, and we went to a Braves game. Will's buddy got us free tickets to the Braves game, and their 9/11, whatever, like festivities. You don't want to say that word. You know what I mean? Like 9/11 celebration. You know, like
That's crazy.
Like,
but it kind of was though.
But I mean, they showed just footage I hadn't seen in 20 years. You know what I mean? Like they showed. Like I remember being a junior in high school when that happened, and like I haven't watched that stuff since. But they straight up Braves Stadium, planes flying into towers. Like I'm just sitting there, like we all stood up, and I'm just sitting there like, all right, man, cool, thanks. Just wanted to watch a game today, but all right, it's fun. Like yeah, they did it all, and then we watched the game and had a great time, and then finished up in Asheville on Sunday and came back home.
Asheville's great. That's where my brother lives.
Yeah, they got a really cool. We were at the Magnetic Theater in Asheville.
Oh
and,
yeah.
I mean, on a Sunday we had a great turnout.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, I've only done it. I did Asheville in February of 2020.
Oh Jesus!
And
we didn't know
one
it was
of the
about
very
to hit
last
us.
shows that I ever did.
Yeah.
It might have actually been the last show that I did before
Yeah.
like it really popped off as far as like a kind of a real show. And there was this girl. She's not even down there anymore. She left Asheville.
She's like, I
the one
gotta
that
go.
booked us. I think she's back. I don't know, somewhere in the Northeast, but.
Everyone changed locations during.
I
all
know,
this,
dude.
so,
Everyone
like, I
was
gotta
just on
go.
a scuttle. I have no idea where anybody's at anymore.
No,
Hardly.
I don't know if there's any LA comics left.
Yeah,
Like,
dude. I don't think they exist.
Like,
It's like it's just Laura Peak out there, just hanging out by
She's like,
herself.
hey,
That's the only one
people
I know.
come visit sometimes. I guess. I don't know.
No, I don't know. I'm sure that there's still stuff going on, but it's so funny too because like even with like the New York and LA people, especially comics, they're in these cities that are so like kind of against doing a lot of shit.
Right.
And it's like they're friends with all these people that are against doing a lot of shit and they like follow them on Instagram. So part of my heart believes that like a lot of this, especially during the thicker parts of the pandemic where people were doing stuff they just weren't telling anybody to do.
Hey, we're gonna do this show, but just don't say.
Yeah, don't post about
Is that a?
it.
Take a picture.
It's like people were doing the yonder bag thing, but like with no bags. They were just like, no,
Just
no
someone at the
photos.
front door,
It's a
like-
secret show.
Phones. I mean, Sam Morrell did the rooftop shows. too.
Exactly, that's what I mean. It's like-
you got to do something.
Yeah,
you know,
I mean, I'm sure that there and in talking to some of the guys from New York, it's like there was stuff happening here and there. It was just like, you just had to be low key about it.
I do love that. What is it? The Instagram page. New York is dead.
Oh,
Like, it came out
is
on
there
this-
is there an Instagram about that?
Yeah.
What is it?
It's just talking about how it's not dead. Like people come back to New York, like we're fine. Like
okay.
everyone freaked out. We're fine. It's
Yeah,
great.
yeah. I feel like local New York people are kind of like,
I got a buddy that's
if you
up
live
there
through
now.
9/11, people are like,
Yeah, he's like, we're good. He's like, oh, put a mask on. Yeah, we got that. It's fine.
yeah. It's whatever.
I mean, but places like that, they're more compliant. You know what I mean? Like,
It is weird. I think
like,
that
just
was. I
wear a
saw a
mask,
guy
like,
tweet
okay.
that the other day. I don't remember who it was, but he was like, the weirdest thing to find out about this whole thing was what percentage of people would turn on me if they were told to. And I was like, ooh, that's pretty true. Because
we all had that family member that we knew, but we didn't have validation. And you're like, I knew you were that
Yeah.
person. Not wearing a mask. You ain't gonna make me. I hate that mess, dude. Like, it
Tell me
really
how
was
you really
eye
feel,
opening.
Drew.
No, it really was eye opening. Like, you know, like a bunch of people I went to high school with. You know, like a bunch of I'm from small town North Carolina.
Yeah,
and
sure.
like, you're just like he thinks that way. Oh, okay, cool. All right,
Yeah, it got really, really real actually in my hometown, which isn't. It's like 7,000 people. It's not huge, but it's a little town.
You're in
and,
Eastern Tennessee, though, right?
Southwest Virginia, but barely.
Oh,
like
okay.
Bristol
Well,
is the
right there.
border town.
Okay,
I
gotcha.
live on. I was originally and grew up in the town next to Bristol on the Virginia
Okay,
side.
nice.
So very
Okay,
close to
gotcha.
Tennessee,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
not quite. And they had a football coach at the high school die of COVID, and
Probably
that
didn't change anyone's opinion.
no, I think that was like people had already known and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously there's the whole thing, but
Yeah.
that was like that dude was like beloved.
Oh, okay.
He was like,
All right.
he was
Because
a
it can
beloved.
go either way. Like I've
Exactly.
seen people straight up be like, "My wife died from this, but it ain't gonna get me." You know,
dude.
like,
And dude, oh man, this is bad to say, but I've seen in the last few weeks, I've seen like multiple people, like women that have been pregnant and then have gotten COVID while they've been pregnant. That's been dicey.
Yeah.
And that I was like, oh God, man. And like that's our that's our age group of people. Everybody that is not a comic that we know is getting knocked up.
As a normal life.
Yeah. They're doing that. So it's like I'm like watching that happen to like not just like a few and that is like, come on, man. You don't want that.
Yourself,
yeah, it's like
I don't understand. Like the doctor tells you not to eat sushi, and you're like, all right, but they're like, hey, get a COVID shot. No, I won't.
But I don't know. I understand why people don't like the idea of it.
I get both sides of it too. I just growing up our whole lives, and they're like, get this measles shot, get this chickenpox shot, get this flu shot, and we've never had any problems.
Well, the one thing I'll say is this: is like, okay, if you're like one of these people, especially if you're like over the age of 30, and you're from where either of us are from, and you've lived a life and you've worked hard, and you've never been on welfare, you don't know anything about like government assistance. All you've done is work. And you don't really trust the government to everything that you've been told. Like they're trying to take things from you and make you do things, right? So
I grew up with a little bit of that.
Exactly. And there's a part of that like where you're like,
when it first came out, I was like, I'm not.
Yeah, exactly. And
also
people that are on the left forget that whenever it was first kind of talked about, it was a Trump vaccine.
Right.
And that they were like, yeah, you guys can have fun with your MAGA vaccine that turns around in a year. And it's like, and there's one of my favorite things on Twitter right now are people that have tweeted both sides of the vaccine defense just a year apart because they thought whatever was coming out was
our party flipped.
Exactly.
Okay,
And dude, people they're doing these things where they're putting both the tweets and then they're like making like a mural like kind of clear photo of them and stuff. Oh my god, dude, it's hilarious.
That's what I'm saying. Like make your decision yourself.
Exactly.
Just don't base it off of something else.
That's what's stupid. So sickening.
If you don't want to do it, fine.
Yeah,
but also don't do it because Joe told me I had to, so fuck him. Yeah. You know, like, I just hate that part, man.
I don't know. And it's, I was just talking about this yesterday. Lewis, I was in West Virginia, and we had a situation with an ambulance, and it was a 2-hour response time.
Jesus.
And this was like 20 minutes from the hospitals. It's not like
I feel
we
so
weren't
bad.
out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, we're in West Virginia, which is obviously not as,
right.
But it's not like that. And then once he got there to the hospitals, he had a 3-hour wait time. Jeez. And they were in red zone. So once he got there, he couldn't go in with anyone. He had to go in by himself.
Yeah, because my mom's a nurse. She's a cancer nurse.
Oh, yeah.
And they completely are keeping all of the cancer patients out of the hospital for obvious reasons right now.
Because
she's having to be
so weak.
A COVID nurse now. Yeah. They're like, oh, well, your floor's empty. It sucks. So, I mean, like, I hate it for our healthcare workers, especially,
Yeah, I mean, well... Hard pivot.
Talk about that depressing stuff.
I don't know. I mean, like it's fine to talk about. It's one of those things where,
unfortunately, it's the life we live right now.
Yeah, it's like it's so prevalent in the world. It's just like I think more so. I just hope that we
almost over.
It feels like it's not leaving. It just hopes that like we get to be able to live more normally and without as much concern of this. It's like I don't know. I think it is inevitably getting better. It's like it has to. This Delta thing is going around, and it's not as often as I feel like people are getting COVID now, which is probably more often than it was. It's not dropping nearly as many people,
which is good.
That's great. And so it's like
we know how to fight it a little bit better now.
We're not completely unknowing about what.
That first wave.
You remember that? It's no one knew what.
I remember when that first person died. People were like, "Oh wait, what?"
Yeah. And then people were like, "Oh yeah, New York is falling apart." You remember that? Like during that
we were
2-week
seeing
lockdown,
pictures of like trucks,
mass graves.
Yeah, you're like, "Oh,
yeah,
okay,
dude.
All right. Well, this is a little scary now."
Yeah.
Like,
what is all that? But. Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, it's just a part of life now, going forward. Now we got to learn how to do comedy and all of this.
I know, which is like...
Have you found that, like, some of your jokes, like, going back and, like, preparing to get back out there, like, I've gone over some of my jokes and be like, this doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah, and here's the thing, if I'm being completely honest, I didn't really stop. Yeah. Like, we took those first 2 weeks off like everybody else, and then we started a house show at a basement that we did 2 to 3 times a week for a few months, and then we started getting, like, twin kegs back.
Yeah.
And that was on a porch.
Right.
And so we've basically been doing that since April, May, June, probably June of 2020.
Yeah.
And so what was interesting to me was watching it all as it was happening.
Yeah.
You go and you wouldn't.
Excuse me. It's a COVID.
It's a COVID? I'm vaxxed, bro. At least I won't be hospitalized. That's what they told me.
But I mean, how did you feel like your joke writing was going through all that?
Well,
like,
it was like
different circumstances.
It was more so not even like how I wrote the joke. It was mainly just about like what people even would care to talk about.
Yeah.
And my favorite part was seeing people that didn't do anything for 5, 6, 8 months, a year, and then come back and try their old shit. And I'll be like, no.
That's not gonna work anymore.
There's a new flavor, my guy. You guys got to readjust your palate for what's the fuck's just gone down.
Which like, I if it keeps every open mic comic from talking about eating ass, then I count it as a win. I just got so sick of that.
Oh my gosh, dude!
Before
Ritu got like 30 or 50 fucking tomatoes thrown at her at the end of her comedy bar show one time because she said, "I don't like to eat ass."
That tells you the climate of where we're at.
That's Indian food, baby. That's what she does. That's what she's. Come on, one time.
There it is.
All right.
Hey, David's alive over in the corner, ladies and gentlemen. He's been over there the whole time, just milking. He was like, "Indians, I got it, baby."
I love that he's like, I'm waiting for the right time. There it is.
Oh
Yeah,
my goodness.
I don't
But yeah,
know, man.
I don't know. Eating ass. You into it?
Not a fan.
Nah.
I mean, obviously, I'm going to get the job done.
Get the
you
job
know what I mean?
done.
I'm going to make sure, that the person walks away a happy customer.
Right,
you know what I mean?
right.
Like, I'm hoping that's not on the list.
Yeah. No, I get
Like,
that.
I'm not like going into it like, man, I hope this is where it heads.
Okay, but
you
what
know?
about for you?
Nah, I'm good.
No?
I know.
What if she was really into it?
I know what goes in. Like, I don't need to know. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need to put anyone through that. You know what I mean? Like, I consider myself on the higher end of the hygiene level. I don't need that little bit of self-doubt. You know what I mean? Like, I would have to heavily invest in like bidets. You know what I mean?
Well,
Like,
yeah.
there would have to be a bidet.
You have
in
a
my
wife
every room.
though too. That's
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah,
It's
so
like
you
we
wrote
have
it
to
off
look
for
at each
life.
other the
That's
next
what I'm
day. You
saying,
know what I
man.
mean?
It's like you've written that off for life.
This isn't
man.
some
yeah.
Tinder hookup. This is your
Yeah,
wife.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
wouldn't. If I had a wife, I wouldn't want her to do it either.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, how do you sit down and have breakfast together after that? You know?
I
what
don't know.
mean?
You
Like,
just tell her if she has anything in her teeth.
but you don't want to be responsible for that. You know what I mean? Like, no, thank you.
No, I don't know. I say all that, but I'm not like out here getting my ass eaten or nothing. It's nothing like that.
And I mean, like, it's an awesome topic to talk about. But, like, if you've ever seen it in like pornos and stuff, the dude's legs are like way back here. Like, also,
It's like, yeah,
I just
they're-
don't want to be in that weird position. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, like that. It feels like your butthole is hidden for a reason. Like it doesn't feel easy to get to.
Like, I don't think any man has ever looked sexy with
With
just
his-
like, hey, what's up?
dude.
You know, like, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good. We're hairier in other places. Like, I'm good.
Yeah, especially like once you mentioned it as for a dude, like I can't. Well, but also, can you even like? This is why I never really. How do I say this without being? I've never understood women's interest in men because women are so much more beautiful.
Oh, we're gross.
We're
terrible.
nasty. Like
We're
I don't
terrible
get that.
human beings.
Yeah.
I've never. I work in a field where there's a lot of ladies that are into other ladies, and I'm just like, I get it.
Yeah. Every
Like,
time I meet
stay
a
away from
lesbian,
us.
I'm like,
Like,
yeah,
we're fucking
yeah,
terrible.
you make sense.
We're god awful.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
like we've all caught ourselves. It's all like that Tom Segura joke where he's like getting into the shower and he turned around and caught his like
the reflection.
side. He's like,
yeah.
How does anyone have sex with me? Like, what is?
That's so true.
Like, no. Like, I don't. I've seen. We've all seen those weird angles of ourselves in the like stepping into the shower. Like, oh, I feel so.
And I'd
sorry
like
for
to
her.
think that like everyone has gross angles, but at the same
Some
time,
people do.
not that gross.
Right. Some of them are minimal.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
Like,
You could just
you can find a gross angle on anybody.
yeah.
but You can find a
you
whole
could throw
lot
an
more.
extra chin on basically anyone, but
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
that's a little bit too much. That's a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I love how we went COVID, ass eating. And now where do we go?
Where do we go from here? Isn't that a Blink 182 or something like that?
Yeah.
I'm feeling this right now.
Yeah.
I love that he's now brought all of the truth about UFOs out.
Who?
Tom DeLonge.
Wait, what?
The old lead singer of Blink-182.
Oh, David, did you see how he just put the microphone out?
He's like,
sorry, let me get in here.
He was like, I know everything about this.
Okay,
Okay.
he's got some movie company and book company where he is claiming that the government is using him to get out the truth that they know about aliens over time, so it doesn't shock the public when they eventually reveal the truth about aliens. And it sounds like he was on Rogan and talked about it. But some of the stuff, as this UFO stuff's come out, it seems a little more realistic, but there's no way it's true. He's like, it's all because his dad died, and he had a nightmare about his dad connecting to his dad, and it woke him up and it scared him. He thought that something about orbs and aliens and the spirit, and it's all this insanity about losing his dad.
But then he
That's
started
what it's really
digging
about.
and actually like got somewhere.
I don't know about that.
It seemed like he got something. Like to the human, like to the general public, I was like, oh, he's digging deep here. I like this.
He's doing something. I don't know what he's doing, but
He at least
That's
made the
crazy.
government be like, all right, we'll say something.
Dude, those people that are just doing like that's going to be the best information in the next 5, 8, 10 years is like those people that are doing weird deep dives on their own that are just like a bit like
we had all the
expedition.
time. We had all the time in the world.
I
you
know.
what I mean?
Well, it's like that guy. What was his book called? I think it was like The Immortality Key or something like that. And he wrote, and he like traveled for like 10 years just studying how like the early Greeks and Christians used psychedelics in their Eucharists, basically.
Yeah.
And like damn near proved it. Like how you read the story of like how he found it, and you're like, I mean, it's not like proof in the sense of like this. It's not. We don't have like the tactile thing, but there's a lot of signs. There's a lot of signs pointing, and that's pretty crazy. And it's like, what does that even mean? Who knows?
I think that's the next step, man. Is like figuring out, playing with like microdosing and like battling severe depression.
Dude,
and
they're giving mushrooms to veterans, and they're coming out okay. What, dude? That's. What? That's crazy. Yeah. Like that. If you would have told me that 30 years ago, exactly. I mean, I'm not even 30, but like if you would have told anyone that 30 years ago, they'd be like, you're batshit insane.
If you would have told me when I was, 13, 14, that weed would be legalized in a lot of states by the time I was in my 30s,
and even like most states, you're gonna be fine.
Get out of here. Like, that's just blowing my mind now. And then Denver's toying around with the idea of like mushrooms.
Oh, Oregon already did it, I think.
Oh, Jesus.
I mean, it's already, it's like, it's coming around. And Johns Hopkins is doing, like.
Well, that's the thing, is it opens it up for that now.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, no one would touch it back in the day. Like, we're not doing weed studies. Get out of here.
Well, I think that it probably was the CIA thing. Like, they probably tried to make it into a brainwashing thing, and they're like, that's not what this does.
Or the truth serum.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that was part of it, too, the truth serum thing. And whenever that didn't work out, people were like, we don't know what this does, but it fucks people up when you give them a lot of times.
Can we get that research? Yeah we're going to go on our own here. We're gonna try some things.
Yeah, we're going to try to give it to a veteran. We'll see how that goes.
I mean, nothing else is working. Let's give him mushrooms.
I mean, imagine being the first guy with that idea.
You probably was looked at like a lunatic.
Like an insane person.
Yeah.
And it's so weird, dude. It's like, it's shit like that makes you go, what can you even... What do you feel like laying your roots in that like feels?
Can you imagine one day going to your doctor and just being like, something's off, doc, and then being like, have you tried LSD?
Yeah, dude, crazy.
I'll write you a prescription. You can go pick it up at CVS. It'll be ready for you in an hour. I mean, we might see that in our lifetime.
It's not impossible,
right?
Maybe it's not a national policy, but I bet within some state, somewhere, at some point.
I think that's the best we can hope for is the government eventually just being like, states can do whatever they want.
Yeah, well, that's kind of would be probably better.
Yeah,
that would put some people really like. It would be like, okay, fight
then you
state.
can pick and choose where you want to live based on your beliefs and how you feel about something.
And people, and that's kind of the original idea of the United States in a sense. Yeah. Like it was kind of like, come over,
adventurous, go out west.
We got some space. Go out and find your shit.
Yeah, make your life the way you want it to. Like I don't know why we got so far away from that.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people would say that was never there to begin with. It's like there's part of you. There's probably some of that's not wrong.
Yeah.
And like. You think for how long it took, and people were only living whenever they were first doing that to like 40 tops, right? Like tops. Like a wise guy was 40.
Yeah, I'd be towards the end of
which
my life, for sure.
Puts in perspective way more why people our age try to talk like they're wise people. I'm always like, people are so old. Like why would you feel at this point like you know enough to like give it to other people? But then I was like, oh yeah, well, we've been doing this as far as like for a long time, this is about the time when you start feeling like you got some shit at least a little bit figured out.
Yeah, I don't have anything figured out, but I know what not to do.
Yeah,
So
there's a good list of things not to do. And that's really what
I tried that one time.
That's really what it is.
Yeah,
kind of.
You just gotta spin it to use the right vocabulary to where you're like, make it sound like you're dropping knowledge, but you're really just like, my entire year 25 was fucked because of this. Don't do it. You know, like, so that's all I got to offer.
What would be the biggest thing, like if you see like a 22-year-old's first day coming to a mic and he asked you genuinely, and if you actually had one thing to be like, don't ruin yourself over this in the next 10 years.
I think that would be the biggest thing is nothing's the end of the world.
Okay.
Like I thought too much early on, like, well, there's the end of my, like, I'm never end of my career. Like to burn that bridge, that's never gonna get back. Like you see big name comics burn bridges with huge producers and comedy clubs all the time, and they still have a career. It's like I just had it in my own head that everything had to go perfectly in order to have a comedy career.
Okay.
And not like, oh well, that guy doesn't like me, it's over. You know what I mean?
It's kind of part of that, like, don't feel like you need to make everyone like you sort of situation.
Exactly. Because you have that feeling early on. Like it's deep ingrained there.
Yeah.
Why we became comics in the first place.
Yeah,
is
the
I
affirmation.
need these people to like
me. Yeah.
And then that first booker, that, you know, other comic doesn't like you, and you're like, what am I even going to try to do now? You know, like nothing's the end of the world. Like,
yeah. No, that's probably good. Yeah. Especially because you can definitely convince yourself that for whatever reason that it's like, well, that'll be it.
Well, I'm never getting booked here, so I might as well just quit comedy.
Yeah.
You'll find your way. You know what I mean? Like there's plenty of comics that we don't even know about that make a pretty good career.
That's one of the cooler things. And plus with like stuff with like online and stuff, everything now, it feels like open season on hey, make your own, like create your own adventure of how you have a career sort of thing in this thing. Yeah. And that's like, to me, it's more fun. The idea of like old comedy of having to like fucking bow down to all these club owners and try to get on the road like that all the time. It's like, no.
Bucket that a little bit.
It's like, but if you can come already with a little bit of something, then it's like, yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I still think you need that respect.
Oh, absolutely.
You know,
like you still
come
need to be
in
a
with your hat in your
person.
hand.
Yeah,
but there's some people that you can, no matter what you do, you're not going to please.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there's bookers that just see you and there's like, I just don't like you. Like I can't tell you why I don't like you. I just don't like you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I was, you know, programmed to just be devastated by that and be like, well, I mean, it just means I can't work here, you know, but there's other places that I can work.
So is that why you moved to Nashville?
Right. Burned all the bridges. No one books me in North Carolina anymore.
No, actually, I was going to ask you about that. What was the incitement? Like, why Nashville? Because if you came and you were already deep into a comedy career.
Like, mainly it was the thing that I knew I always could go back to North Carolina. You know what I mean? Like
it's not too far.
The run that me and Will just did, that, you know, like we combined our connections and had a pretty good run.
Yeah, I mean, that was like, I mean, what did you guys do? Like 12 shows? Something like that?
Yeah.
I mean,
I mean, we had a great time. You know, and I was like, I always have that. You know, I made the connections here. I can do these shows. Right. Now let's take over another territory, add it to the arsenal, and then also, if you travel 3 hours from Wilmington, you get nowhere. 3 hours from Nashville,
you get almost everywhere.
Plenty of cities,
a lot of places,
plenty of great show opportunities. I was just tired of doing 10 hours just to get to a show. You know what I mean? Like,
that's kind of the
what
thing.
are we, 6 hours or 8 hours to Chicago from here or something?
Oh, not 8, probably like six, like around 6-ish.
Okay. So I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah,
like you can't even get to
Atlanta's
the end
4.
Yeah,
I mean, Chattanooga's 2, Huntsville's 2.
Yeah,
Louisville's 2.
I did Huntsville when I was in Wilmington, and it was
Memphis
8.5 hours. And now I'm, you know, hour and a half away.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's great.
I mean, Memphis isn't even 2 hours, really.
Yeah,
it's more like an hour 45.
Yeah. Just seeing that radius that I could get to. Right. You know what I mean? And plus, we got 3 clubs in town. You know what I mean? Like, that's
that's enough.
Yeah.
that especially for Nashville, and especially with what Comedy Bar's been doing lately. Yeah. It's like Comedy Bar was kind of a non-player prior to COVID, but nowadays they've been, and apparently Whispers, but they might be looking for another location.
I heard the
You've
Whispers.
heard the Whispers?
The Whispers.
So we'll see what happens with that.
Whispers.
Dude, but that whole thing just...
I hope it's got better parking.
I don't know.
But I mean, almost, just opportunities. You know what I mean? I knew I had reached... I did everything in North Carolina I set out to do. Mm-hmm. Like, there was still room for improvement. Like, I didn't hit, like, the wall of North Carolina, but I did enough to where I was like, what's next? Like, because I mean, you never know who's going to be in the audience here in Nashville. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, dude. I think it's such a good, honest read here.
Yeah.
Like, people I've gone to a few other places and people come here and stuff. It just seems like the most honest read of like consistency. Now you're gonna have your shitty audiences like anywhere, but especially in the clubs and stuff, whenever there's people in there, it's like this is pretty genuine most of the time. It's like I and maybe that's my bias or whatever, but it's like I feel like oftentimes I agree with the audience.
Yeah,
here.
Like, oh, you're right. I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't deserve
and not just
anything.
and not just exclusively.
No,
me.
yeah.
While me,
You
that's
see other
like
comics too.
but you watch other people and you're like, they'll watch through a little bit of the bullshit. They're not like.
They'll
I feel
give
like
you the chuckles, like
yeah. And then they're not overly leaning in any way of their idealism to like be pandered to in the same way.
And it's funny, like we were talking about it a little bit earlier, like the political stuff. Like I haven't seen anything political really fly, and I don't think it's because the audience leans one way or the other. I think just as an audience together, collectively, they're like, I don't wanna
Here's a
talk about
great
this, dude.
example of that. You ready? Last night there was a Bode show. At the Bode, right down next to, and Jeff came up and there was this comic. I think he was the guy from New York. I can't remember who it was that said it, but he goes, "Are you guys?" He asked the audience. He goes, "Are you guys pro-vax or anti-vax?" And everyone was just kind of like, "Ooh," and it was quiet for a second. And then, like almost in unanimousness, 3 people in different parts of the room goes, "We're pro-choice." And it's like, yeah, that's what it is. People don't care to take the side anymore. They're like, just fucking don't tell us to do anything.
Can you just make us laugh?
Yeah,
man?
Yeah.
Have you not seen the world that we live in right
Come
now?
on,
Like,
fucking guy.
tell jokes, my dude.
Yeah. And I was
No
like,
one wants to get lectured.
and I was like,
anymore, and that's fine.
"Woo,
Like, I don't think.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've always been a comic that stayed away from politics and things like that. You know what I mean? Like I remember.
I like to dip a toe, but it feels like to like really. Like people like that's their whole thing sometimes.
I love the comics that play both sides. You know what I
Sure.
mean? They're like, I'm going to tell you some Trump jokes, but then I'm going to sneak some Biden and Hillary jokes. in
Like
there
if you're a
too.
political guy, you should be able to hit both sides.
Right, you shouldn't
Like,
have a bias.
yeah.
You can do politics, but don't have a
No.
bias. You
Oh
know what
god,
I mean?
the
Like,
biased political
be
people. that's
funny
the
to
worst.
be funny.
Yeah,
you know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
and I respect that.
Corey
that-
Perry, rule number 1: be funny.
Be funny. If you got a point to get across, make sure it's wrapped in a joke.
Yeah.
You know, like I just think more than ever, people are like, man, we just want to take an hour and a half off from life and have a good time.
Yeah, I mean it's way more, especially with the dilution of human contact. Whenever people come to a show, it's way more exciting just to be in a show environment. Like it's like they're not even going to work anymore and seeing this many people.
like we're happy to be out of the house.
Yeah. Like
don't make us regret coming here, please.
No.
You know, like,
And it feels bad whenever you do that because like sometimes you gotta almost not respect an audience like that where you're like, I gotta work on it. Especially if it's like a mic or something.
Yeah.
It's the worst to see an open mic that has good attendance. That is like in
I'm
my
so
heart,
sorry
I'm
what's about
so
to happen to
torn.
y'all.
I'm like, I don't want to be rude and like not care that
But
you
I've
guys
got to work
probably
on
got a
this joke.
babysitter or you're doing whatever you're doing, you're having a good night or whatever. But I got to do like
got
what
to.
I have no idea. Oh
like
god,
this joke has been in my head all day. I've got to get it out.
feels
And
bad.
it's probably not going to be good, but you're here. I'm here.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Let's do the thing.
Yeah.
But-
I mean, I think, now more than ever, people just want quality jokes, you know? Like, they don't care if it's... They're like, don't teach me a lesson, man. I don't want to talk about that. Like, make me laugh. You got any fart jokes? Let's get some fart jokes.
Dude, love talking about fart jokes. I mean, me and Lewis were just in here yesterday. We talked about farts for at least half an hour.
It's a great topic. It's something that will never grow old.
Oh my goodness. So like what, I guess, what is, what do you notice anything as far as like a through line of people that are comics in Nashville? Is there anything here that is like a unifying trait? Like I feel like people from New York or LA, you can almost kind of tell on them. I'm just curious. Is there, because you've been around and you came in knowing enough?
I think like if anything, I think collectively Nashville comics seem to be like laid back. You know what I mean? Like we have our little scuffles and infighting like any scene does, but I think for the most part everyone seems like that. You know how you go to a scene and you see someone who's just so high energy and you're just like, how do you function as a person?
It's like
You know what I
too
mean?
cokey
Like,
or something.
yeah, you're
yeah.
do you not have like, is your heart like beating out of your chest right now? Like that looked painful up there. Like I think collectively we all are just like a laid back demeanor, like the on stage, you know, like I guess the southern slow way of life, you know what I mean,
Has
like,
a bit more of a persistence here. I do think that like you see guys come from New York especially, And it's like you can almost just.
It's almost like they're hovering over.
Yeah,
you.
dude.
You know,
I don't know.
Hey,
yeah,
hey, and like
I don't know what it is. It's like they have this idea, and I guess because they're from New York, is that like comedy is singularly combative.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
you're aggressive.
There's a combative element to comedy, but it's not. That's not where you start. Like, you don't want to just like, you don't want to open up and be like, I hate you guys too. like that's so crazy. Why would you want to? Do you not want to have a good time? Like, that's always been curious to me.
Yeah.
And I was. Do you think because I've been thinking about this. My friend Nick, who's from New York, I asked him. He stayed here for a few days, and I was like, when he left, and I was like, is it enough in your mind? Like, do we have enough here to like do enough to be a working comic, in contrast to New York, because I've never really been in the New York scene like that. And he was like, honestly, probably not. And I was like, oh, that's fine.
Okay.
I was like, okay, because now we could prove you wrong.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
like that's my favorite thing. Is like I hope that he's wrong, but at the same time, I kind of get where he's coming from. Where there's a grind mentality that I think is set in New York that I don't know. It was definitely a benefit back in like the 80s, 90s, like this time whenever you're trying to get on the fucking Tonight Show and you got to get your certain sets or whatever. That feels like the proper mindset. I just don't know what is anymore.
But
I'm
is
not
it a
confident.
proper mindset because it was ingrained into our brains?
That's what I'm saying. It's
You
like
know what I mean?
I don't know the difference in that. I don't know,
Right.
and I don't.
I think you got to do what works for you. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
if going to a mic every single night is making you better,
Well, I think like
By all
that's
means.
bare minimum, but it's the difference between going to a mic every night and going to 4.
right?
Or getting to a couple mics a night and then
Yeah.
going to 5. Like that, and that's kind of the New York thing. Is like,
Are you getting anything?
I
out
know
of that?
that's my question. Is like, I don't know if you're over milking that orange.
Because then
over
does
milking
that
orange,
joke
what?
become rehearsed? You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like, do you know to say this word for word now? Or are
Exactly,
you
and that's
letting
why they feel to me so boxy so often,
Yeah.
because they're having to do so many jokes in front of just comics,
Yeah.
and it's like, you can't connect to anybody, and they do kind of hate you most of the time.
Yeah.
So that's like, to me, that's where it kind of seems where that comes from. It's like if you're a first 800 shows
Yeah.
are to 12 comics that don't like you, like what that sets in your brain as far as what comedy is like a weird idea to me.
That's my whole thing, man. Is like, you almost could get more out of just staying at your house and writing. You know what I mean? Like, as opposed to, let me go do
Dude.
this show that no one's going to pay attention.
Mhm.
You know, I'm not going to get any kind of honest feedback whatsoever for.
Mhm.
I'm basically just going to recite the joke.
Right.
I'm not going to get any laughs. I'm not going to get any chuckles. I'm going to do my time and I'm going to go home.
Mhm.
Is that helping? I just know that it doesn't help me, because then I give
It
up on
doesn't
a
feel
joke.
very helpful.
I'll give up on a joke before I've even put it out in front of a room with a crowd.
Right.
That would like, because at the end of the day, man, I think a lot of comics enjoy being a comic, but they don't grasp the fact that at the end of the day, you got to make the people that paid to see you happy.
Right.
You're never going to get booked at any of these big clubs if you can't make an audience happy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I love hearing these young comics be like, I don't care if they like me or not. Like, you probably should.
Yeah, that's it.
Like, that's our whole business. Like, how are you gonna get booked at a club? Like, go to a booker and be like, I don't care if
who
your
likes
audience
me.
likes
Yeah, yeah.
If you like me, if they like me, I don't
yeah.
give a shit. It's like, well, that's kind of the whole.
Like, well, you just canceled yourself out
Yeah,
of the equation.
like,
Like, whatever.
Go sell a
God.
ticket, buddy. That's you gotta want them to want to be there.
Yeah, that's what I love hearing that. I'm just
It's-
like, no.
Do you think that those people are comics though? I'm sorry to interject, but like,
No, you're good.
because anybody that gets on a stage, you could say is a comic. But the things you've been talking about, I feel like you could relate to like open micers, like a crazy energy guy. That's an open.
Yeah.
Is that guy a comic? Like, I think maybe comics get
Facebook,
to
maybe.
decide. Maybe comedians get to decide. Like, that guy is a comic. That person's a comic.
I would be careful where you draw that line, because somebody above you will draw it right above you. That's
right. But maybe you deserve. Right. So, but like Michael Che could be like, anybody in a local scene is not a comic, or like somebody like
Sure.
that. You could say that, I guess. But
Yeah,
it's just
yeah.
like it's a psycho, borderline homeless guy that can't get together a joke. A comedian.
goes
I hear what you're
stage.
saying.
You know what I'm saying?
Like, where
Is
do
that
you-
the first-
So, I mean, I do agree that's very subjective. What do you
Yeah.
see? What are, like, when do you become leaving from being an open micer to a comic?
I don't even know that I've made any kind of transition like that. Like I have conversations with Sativa, and he even references himself as an open micer still,
Yeah.
because in a mindset, it's kind of like that. It's like you're not to the point where you're never going to go back to a mic. I think that's when you're not an open micer anymore. Like, once you're not ever going to go back to another mic, or at least you'll never need to go back to another mic,
Yeah.
that's when you're not.
Or like,
And
what shows are you getting booked on? Like Brad, like what shows do you get booked on? Brad Sativa's not an open micer, I don't think. You know.
Well, yeah.
I think if you're making any kind of,
I mean, like I would say that's like he's like killing the last little bit of what feels like he's an open micer because he doesn't get on enough shows to do always brand new material and always be comfortable to just work on brand new stuff all the time at all the shows.
which shout out to him last night. We did Stone Cold Sober,
and he's amazing. Yeah. And
he
Brad's
went up.
awesome.
He went up and he basically like improv'd his set. He was like, "Give me a word."
Oh yeah, I love that he does this.
It was amazing to watch. I haven't seen him do that before. It was fantastic.
He's because he was a rapper before, so he has all this like he does the word thing and then he's just going like that, and you just watch him because I watched him freestyle before, and it's the same. I watch it like his face, the way he does it, and he's thinking, it's the same thing, and I don't know what that connection is, but something there.
Yeah,
it's good.
Well, we were talking about it on our road trip. Like, I don't know if I necessarily care if I ever become like a household name, or if like, because even like my mom, she doesn't know who like top comics are. You know what I mean? Like I could throw names at her.
I'd love that.
You know what I mean?
I've been seeing this girl for a little bit, and I love asking her about comedy stuff, and she just has no idea.
Because there's people at work where I'm like, oh, you do comedy? Do you know that guy with the puppets?
Yes, dude, Jeff Dunham.
I was like, you don't even know his name. That's fantastic. He made $40 million last year.
Sells arenas.
You don't even know his name.
That's a fucking puppet guy, huh? He's
Big guy,
big Mexican guy, right? You know him?
Like, that was the best thing he ever did, was give himself a
Literally,
nickname.
my dad asked me about Jeff Dunham last week. He was like,
So I don't think I don't ever care. Like, I mean, obviously, if it happened, I'd be ecstatic. But
Sure.
I just want to be to the point where I can go anywhere on any show and just be like, oh, Drew Harrison's here. We got to get him up.
that would be,
You know what I mean? Like,
that would be awesome.
You know, like
That feels
Ron
really
White
good.
can walk in. I'm not saying he's not a big name. He's a huge name.
Sure.
But I'm just saying, like, just that level of respect. Like, hey, Ron White's dropping in.
Yeah.
Like, did you hear he was in town? We got to get him here.
You want to do the Che thing in Atlanta, like you want to like have that exact.
They changed their whole night up
Yeah,
because
yeah,
he was
yeah,
like, because he was like, yeah, I'd be interested.
Yeah.
You know, like, that's like,
So
yeah, I'll
crazy.
come by. Like,
That's so crazy. Yeah.
it's crazy. Like, I just want that level. You know what I mean? Like,
That would be. I mean, that feels like the most fun level to be at.
of course.
Like, and going past, like, you think like there's Che, and then there's guys like Chappelle and Rogan and Burr, and it's like I don't even know that I want to go past the Che spot of like.
Yeah.
Everybody knows that's in the world, knows that you're good, and will be cool with you being wherever.
Right.
And you're big enough to where you can always sell, maybe even to a theater occasionally.
Yeah.
That's like, mwah, that's
Yeah.
like, to me, that
Clubs
sounds.
and theaters would be.
Oh, God, that sounds
the
great.
tick.
Yeah.
Do you really want to do arena? I mean,
I
obviously
mean,
the
it
money.
would be fun to do. The money
Obviously
would be
the
great,
money,
but it
yeah,
would
but
be
like-
like, it just doesn't even
like-
feel like.
Like, just looking at, like,
I don't
are
like
you even
doing
listening
so
to
many
it?
like just right here sort of rooms.
Yeah.
It would feel so different.
Yeah.
Like I don't know what it would feel like, and I'm sure it'd be invigorating or whatever.
Right.
But
I'm
it
sure
just,
like the
like-
first time I'd get hooked. Like, well, I only do arenas now.
Yeah. But I don't know. I've heard a lot of people say that like there's something about a slightly smaller room, and especially like all these comics that do and tour those rooms, they'll go to like the store, or the cellar, or whatever, and they'll play the regular room to work their material. And it's like that to me is like you can never strictly go to an arena
Right.
and still be good.
Because I mean, aren't you just doing what you do? at that
Exactly.
point?
It's like, who are you even asking anymore?
Yeah.
Like
at the middle, if things are going well, do you just be like, hey, can I try some new stuff?
yeah.
Break out the notebook. Like, I paid $45 for this ticket, my man. I don't want to see it.
So yeah, I don't know. And maybe that's a weird line to draw the whole.
Because I mean, you still see, like, what was it? Eliza Schlesinger?
Yeah, she came to the
dropped in
newsroom.
some open mics.
Yeah,
You know
yeah.
what I mean? So like,
But it's like still, even whenever she did it, she's not doing 4 minutes on the list and signing up like everybody else.
Fair.
It's like
That's
that,
very fair.
and that's.
But it just shows
that's
that you
the I'm
they
not
still
an
need
open
to
micer
work.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would say even to comment on the Brad thing, it's like Brad even gets that treatment some places sometimes.
right.
It's just not all the time everywhere.
Yeah.
And
And
that's,
I think it's regional too. You know what I mean? Like,
for
there's-
sure.
there's,
Anywhere in
you
the
know,
southeast, like that's the type of treatment he probably get in a lot of places.
Right. Because
So-
I mean, I could go to a place in Raleigh and get that treatment,
Right.
and then go 2 blocks down that way in the same town and be like, "Who are you?
Yeah.
You want to what now?"
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
so
And it's so funny the way that people who don't know that you're a comedian, and then like they watch you go up and they're like, "Oh, like you're a comedian, like you're like an actual
that.
one."
I love that when you meet new people, because you got to get past all
Yeah,
this.
yeah,
like,
yeah,
not
yeah.
even just at a club, but just
Right.
with other
Anywhere.
comics. Because like, I
Everywhere you
remember, I don't even remember the comics now, but when I first came to Nashville, they were like, "Oh, hey, you're new." Huh?
Yeah.
And then I went up and did a set, and the set went very well.
Right.
And they're like, "Oh, hey, man."
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
That's
you do have to prove yourself.
Yeah,
and
that's kind of fair. I've gotten to the point where I assume that so much that I'm assuming that they're gonna be like that. That before I go up in a new place like that, I'm not trying to make friends.
We'll talk after.
Let me show you.
It's almost like sliding your business card. Like, just remember me. I'll be back.
I went and did that mic in this place and where I grew up, and obviously there's not comics out there. There's no place to have been working on it. So it's like these people have been, doing probably whatever this guy is operating and giving them time on for like the last 6 months.
Yeah.
And I walk in and they don't know who I am, and I'm just like standing there, and I'd walked in late to the mic, so I went up last because he's doing it in order. So I'm literally going dead last, and I'm watching all these people, and they're coming by, and I'm like, okay, see you. Yeah, we knew your little thing. They're like, why are you sitting over here? We don't know you. and then I go up and I come down. It is 100% just a completely different tone. The whole thing. Even the guy that owned the place, like I saw him, he was like, oh.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, okay, yeah. But it's also one of those things like, what do? You go in there like, I'm a real comic.
Like, just wait and see.
So
you're going to see.
Dude. No, just fucking wait to go up, do your time. Then.
No, I love that when the quiet before the, like, I'm good with it. Like,
that, it
I'll
almost
prove
feels
myself to you.
like, it almost feels better. Like the guys that I know from New York, that's exactly how I was on a show with them in Chattanooga. It was the exact same thing. I got there, we were all just kind of like, meh. And then show goes, and it's like, it was like the three of us. We were just like,
well, you don't want to hit your wagon to a terrible, like, you don't want to be like, hey, did we just become best friends? And then they go up and they bomb. You're like,
shit for 20 minutes.
Hey, man, I was just kidding about starting that podcast together, man. Just spitballing.
You just spitballing.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Oh, you have a podcast with your wife?
We used to. We stopped doing it. We used to do fast food.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We looked back and we did like 9 straight episodes of chicken sandwiches. So we were like, it's time to call it a day. We're done here. So I mean, it mainly was the fast food industry just being like, we're not going to come out with anything cool unless it's a chicken sandwich.
I mean, is that true?
That's all they've been putting out lately.
Really?
Like Burger King put out a chicken sandwich. Bojangles just put out another chicken
I guess Chick-fil-A is just murdering it.
Chick-fil-A's just sitting back being like, y'all know who the original was.
Yeah.
That's fine. But I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm a bit, Popeyes is King Supreme in my
well, I
eyes.
mean, you're North Carolina.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
My dad from North Carolina.
Okay.
My
nice.
dad from
We actually ate a lot of KFC growing up. So like I was super pulling for KFC, and then I ate their sandwich. I was like,
really? I feel like they just have the buckets and stuff.
Right.
But
that's what they're like. Just get the mashed potatoes and chicken. Don't get.
Did you ever hear of ownage pranks? I think about this every time I hear about KFC.
What was it?
It was like these old YouTube videos back in, I don't know, probably between 2008 and I was in high school, so between 2008 and 2012. And this guy, he would do like a fake Asian accent. It was just this big black dude doing a fake Asian accent, and he'd call into KFC, and he'd go, I'm not even gonna do the accent. I was about to do it. I was like, nah, probably not. That's like,
2021.
Yeah, I actually have a great Asian accent that will get me canceled immediately, so I'll never do it.
That's fair.
But he calls into him, and he's doing the accent. And he goes, so yeah, I got my chicken, and there's a feather in it. The people like,
can you imagine answering that phone call? Like, what?
And it's in an Asian accent. And he goes, there's a feta in it. And they're like, a what? He goes,
like, let me get the manager. Real quick.
Oh my God, dude. And it just went on for like almost 10 minutes. It was amazing.
Do you know who Dina Hashem is, the comedian?
Yes, the roaster.
She does a thing with some other comic where they call into Applebee's, different Applebee's, and they're like, my husband, he's going to call and order the Bourbon Street chicken and shrimp, okay? And I need you to tell him that you're out of it. And they're like, what? And he's like, he's addicted to the 100 Street Bourbon and shrimp. He's spending all of our money. We're going broke. And they're like, and then the guy will call in and he'll be like, can I get and they're like, we're out of it. And he's like, did my wife call here and tell you not to say it? And then they're like start freaking
I just hope
out.
That they're like,
It's
who's
so funny.
addicted to our Bourbon Street chicken and shrimp? Like,
but they call all these different Applebee's locations. Like, they're everywhere.
I just hope they're like, they do know this is Applebee's, right?
Oh my God.
Now they got the new song. The country star made the Applebee's song, so I'm sure.
Applebee's song. I haven't heard it.
Have you not had this ingrained into your brain?
No. When did it come
my
out?
God, a few weeks ago, and now it's on every Applebee's commercial. Like Applebee's immediately is like, well, this is our commercial now. Obviously, it's like I gotta let me see who
Pull it up.
who created it.
Yeah, I could look. I can.
Oh yeah, he could look it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always like being at a bar in an Applebee's always feels like the place that it's over.
We made the mistake.
Walker Hayes, fancy like Applebee's.
That's
is that
it.
right?
That's it.
Walker Hayes, fancy like Applebee's.
Should we play it? Do you want to hear some of it?
Yes,
Yeah,
please,
play-
please. It's
give
been in
him a
my
little
brain. Y'all
tune.
have to.
Give him a
It's
little.
called Fancy. Sorry, this is a FanDuel sports ad. We don't want to do that.
No,
No free advertising for FanDuel on this
Fuck.
podcast.
What? Wait,
No.
you don't even say their name. Fuck
No,
them.
yeah, free advertising for somebody. I don't know who it was. You know, gotta do like FanDuel sports though. Here we go. Is this it?
Skip like 20 seconds in.
Here it is.
Oh, I have heard this.
All right, I think that's enough, right?
Well, that's the That's what they use for the commercial.
Yeah.
That's all you need
Bourbon
to know.
Street Steak. They're
Applebee's.
in the
Who was
Oreo
that?
shake.
Who was it?
That's Walker Hayes.
Walker
Fancy.
Hayes.
Fancy like.
Fancy like.
Yes.
That's the
Fancy
name
like.
of the song. He's
Okay.
like, I'm gonna make a song about fancy.
Now we started and we were
Applebee's,
talking about
obviously.
yeah. We were talking about like Kanye and Drake. Was that even on? Were we recording during that? The Kanye Drake?
Oh no, right after.
Okay.
Maybe
So-
we got some of it. I don't know.
Regardless, I was just curious, like, because you also heard that, and that's fun to me. I love the diversity in music interest.
Yeah.
I hate using the word diversity. I used to use that word before it got all fucked, and now
can't- you
every
can't
time I
use that
use it,
word
I feel
anymore.
like I'm like, no, that's not even what I'm trying
That's
to
what
say.
I loved. Michael Che in Atlanta was talking about. He's like, why do we only give white people one word they can't say anymore? Let's expand.
That's funny.
Yeah. But no, I mean it's one of those words where you just feel weird about it. Like,
Yeah,
did
I
I
know.
use that right? I don't think.
Yeah,
I
well,
used it right.
especially it's like there's the updated meaning of the
Yeah.
word, and I'm like, nah. What I meant was a spectrum.
Oof.
Like you can't say anything. You can't say what do you? You want the spectrum?
A diverse spectrum.
The diverse spectrum of music. That's really what I'm trying to say.
Maybe if you put them two together, they cancel each other out.
Yeah,
Diversity
no,
spectrum.
the diversity spectrum of music. What's another one? What is like the different diversity spectrums in music? I don't know. But between going from, do you actually listen to country? I'm assuming that's
A
how
little
you.
bit, yeah. My
that-
wife got me back into it.
Okay.
I definitely like. I
Did you
grew
put
up-
it down for a while? Is that what
for
it was?
sure?
Oh,
I put it
okay.
down for a long time. Like my mom listened to it a lot. Like so, my mom was only 20 years older than me growing up. So like I'd wake up. Her prized possession was this 6-disc CD changer stereo that lived in our living room. And I would wake up every Saturday and she'd already have her 6 CDs in there cleaning the house. You know what I mean?
Right,
like
right.
blaring music,
Yeah,
got
yeah,
the
yeah.
windows up. You know what I mean? Like ready
Doing the
to
whole
go.
thing.
So I mean, I would wake up and it'd be anywhere from Garth Brooks to Clint Black to Def Leppard. You know, like so like.
Boom! No.
Yeah, that's the.
No, it is the GoPro died. It's all good.
Cool.
So yeah, like so. I mean, I feel like she had that, and then of course I started listening to rap on my own. Like my mom, didn't care for that genre, but I started listening to them all. So I had these influences of country music and rock music, and loved for some weird reason when growing up we listened to 3 6 Mafia and Dipset. Like those were the two groups that we listened to. Cameron and Jewels, and then went through a hard emo phase too, because that was in the
Okay.
early 2000s.
Yeah,
when,
that
Taking
was-
Back Sunday was
Yeah.
huge, and Newfound Glory and
Right.
like all those. So yeah, dude,
How old are you now? 30?
36.
6. Okay.
Yeah. Whew, it's rougher to say. I just turned 36. I'm not used to 35's okay, but then you're like, oh, 36. Okay.
I just turned 28, and that feels better.
Wait till
Being
you get-
27 was weird.
It is.
There's nothing about 27.
You're gonna look back on your entire 20s and be like, that was weird. That was super weird. Like you get in your 30s and you're like, I was a trash human being in my 20s.
You're not wrong.
But so I had that whole diverse spectrum of music.
Yeah.
And then I put country down for a long time.
Right.
And I hate to say it, but like Luke Combs is a North Carolina guy. He started getting me back into it. And then this little artist called Morgan Wallen.
Oh no!
And then all that came out, and so I put it back down for a little bit because I was like,
Yeah.
damn him, you know, like,
yeah.
So I if I like a song, I'm in for it, you know what I mean? But I'm not like turning Spotify on to listen to like country music.
Right. Well, I mean, I'll do it every now and again. I like Chris Stapleton. I like Tyler Childers.
Okay. Yeah.
Love Tyler Childers. That was one of the ones I've only found like in the last 18 months or so, and I didn't know about him, and I've stumbled across his shit, and I was like, oh, dude, this guy's great.
Nice. Yeah.
So he's really good. I don't know. I kind of like you. Like, I didn't really grow up on country.
Nah.
Like
my mom, like when I was at the age where my mom could kind of like persuade me a little bit musically, she went straight Christian rock.
Yeah, see, that's what my mom was too. Like my parents were all the Christian music radio stations and all that and everything.
That's all my mom really listened to.
Yeah, and it was like, I don't know. That was like, I'm not like mad at that, but I'm like a little bit bummed that for like my youth, like I missed out on a decent amount of time of some really good music.
For sure. Because I mean, I was in school late '90s, early 2000s. That was, I feel like that was the height of hip hop. You know what I mean? Like, and I definitely caught the tail end of it. But I missed a lot too.
I mean, yeah. Whenever I was in high school, it was like Lil Wayne was huge. That was when Drake got off the wheelchair.
Carters and
oh yeah. I mean, Lil Wayne. People don't even remember what he was.
Used to be.
You know what I mean? Like that guy was like everywhere, and he was great, and he was all these guys now, and people like they take the Lil in the name, and it's like you're taking half of Wayne anyway. It's like like everybody was just like Lil Wayne was so good. He like basically put an umbrella over like 40 artists that are huge now, and it's like they all got it from him. And it's like
and that's how I also feel about 3 6 Mafia too. Like there's so many. You hear a beat now and a
people
new
say
rap
about
artist.
Andre 3000 as well. Yeah.
You hear a beat and you're like, that's 3 6 Mafia.
Yeah.
Like you can definitely hear the influence. You know what I mean? And that's just so funny to me that you know what they used, Hypnotize Minds, and what they used to be like. Remember Lil White kid they let rap with them. You know what I mean? Like, and then you're telling me that's one of the main influences now. It just blows my mind.
Do you like any white rappers?
I like
Is
what
it impossible?
I like what Jack Harlow's doing.
I do like Jack Harlow. Jack Harlow, and this is not a small compliment. I think he's like the closest thing to the version of what we had at Mac Miller.
Yeah,
that
I was a huge Mac Miller
I was
fan.
the big. I love Mac Miller. That's like if there's one.
Yeah.
I used to like more of them, and then like I used to like G-Eazy just because he was angry. And then you know what ruined it for me? Brad told me one time, he goes, he's just doing Drake. And I can't unhear it, and it's just there, and I'm like, "Fuck, he is just doing Drake."
He took like I don't know. It was one of those things that like luckily I just didn't like any of his music, and then it comes out he's just a terrible human being.
Yeah,
too.
I'm
like,
sure.
My stock in you drops tremendously if I just find out you're a garbage person. Sure. You know what I mean? Like, because as comics we strive to be famous one day. You know what I mean? And then to find out that horrible human beings are living that dream, like that just pisses me off.
I know. It's like you fucking
like I would do so much more with this celebrity than you are. I hate it so much.
Yeah.
And that's why I teeter back and forth like with Kanye and Drake. Like I'm sure they're both garbage human beings. You know what I mean? Like,
well, it's like no one's exempt from garbage traits. It's like everybody is kind of trash.
Yes. Yeah.
And
I have a trash side.
Exactly. Everybody does. And it's just whether or not like that trash
just keep
is
it at bay.
Exactly. It's like there's a difference in like really just kind of fucking up and then like really trying to fuck somebody else up. And whenever you see it like that, where it's like it's not pointed at your own self. Yeah. People's trash oftentimes are pointed at themselves, and you're like, oh well, it's hard being a person. We all get that. And then sometimes they point the trash at other people, and then you're like, nah.
Like, because I think a lot of the luster for Donda I lost with when I found out that he was in claims that he stole the artwork. You know, like from like an Instagram artist.
I wouldn't be surprised. Well, I mean, plus now with like with the internet and everything is going to have some sort of derision. Yeah. Like there's too much now. Yeah. It's like how like okay.
There's so much content.
There's so much content out there. It's like you draw a picture. It's like how does it look like you drew that?
How can you prove it?
Yeah, exactly.
At the end of the day, you just got to be able to prove it. Because I mean, our biggest fear is getting a joke stolen. Right. Well, if someone steals one of your jokes, but they're more famous than you,
and especially if they post it,
you kind of just gotta eat it.
Like if a guy that is gonna throw a video in front of 1 million people steals your joke, it's theirs now.
It is.
And like that's what those guys like Mincy and everything figured out. It was like, yeah,
I'll just get it on tape first.
Yeah. As long as
it's like that parallel thinking is brutal, man. Because I used to do a joke about pre-diabetes, and then Forrest Shaw, he's an Australian comic. did a special, and his joke was pretty like right there with what I was saying.
Uh-huh.
I was like, well, I can never tell that joke again.
Yeah.
Awesome. Fantastic.
Who do you think is like the most stolen from comic?
Probably like structure wise and like topic, probably like Brian Regan.
You think so?
I think like I see a lot of comics with like his like mannerisms and things like that. You know what I mean? Like I think a lot of people have gotten inspiration from him early on. I definitely went through a phase where I was like, dude, Brian Regan does that. Stop doing that. You know, like,
yeah, and you can't help sometimes. Like you'll do something, and like you didn't make the conscious decision of I saw them do this, so I'll do it.
Yeah.
But you just do something.
Yeah.
And
I'm probably gonna get crucified for this, but I think if Joe Rogan was a stronger stand-up comic, he would get bit off a lot more. But I think his strong suit's not stand-up. I think his strong suit's like interviewing and podcasting.
Like people talk about his stand-up, and they always kind of like hide their, like everybody's like, you know, you gotta love Rogan. He's done a lot, and he is good. And people say that, and it's like, I don't know, man. Like I like his stand-up.
I mean, it's also like at the end of the day, we all got to remind ourselves everything's subjective. I'm not gonna like what you like.
Exactly.
You're not gonna like what I like.
And then it's also like I'm thinking like a guy like Rogan especially. I don't think he's making comedy for anyone under 30. No, not really. We're the ones that like it.
And that's what's funny to me because I'm 36 and I could care less. Care less about what he's got to say.
Yeah, but you get what I'm saying.
And then these 19-year-old startup comics are like every word he's like, what did he just say?
Yeah.
You know, like I think if anything, his style and opinion gets bit a lot.
Yes, because I think that like a guy like Rogan is so unlike most comics as far as personality and like kind of how they carry themselves that to steal like the roundabout area of a joke from Rogan is just gonna provide enough of like somewhat, I won't say unique, but like somewhat different of a take from a different person like that. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Because I mean, also, you know, like the more we talk about, you know, Bill Burr, I'm sure many comics start off trying to be Bill Burr.
So many.
Like, I mean, the comics before me, it was Bill Hicks. You know, so like,
right.
I think those are probably the most that are.
I see a little bit of
and everyone wants to be Chappelle. You know, what
Chappelle,
I mean?
and then the people in LA, dude, it feels like they all want to be D'Elia. Have you seen that?
I haven't. I've gotten to go to New York. I've done comedy.
I've not done comedy in LA. But I'm saying people that I meet. Yeah. People that like.
And that's the whole thing. Is like that's what I was talking. Like I feel like, you know, Southern, like not even just Nashville comics, but Southern comics as a whole are just more laid back. Like I definitely can see that. Like
right.
I feel like LA and New York comics have to feel like they're got to be more animated.
Right. And it feels like, I don't know, there's a cost and a benefit to both of those, where it's like you see people being chill, and it's like just so long that you can take that energy up there. It's like we would say that it would be difficult for them to take like this like sort of energy down here. It's like so long as like audiences that you perform to in the Northeast are also cool with this pacing, then
that's what
it
I
seems
think
more okay.
When I went to New York, I feel like I definitely caught some people off guard.
How do you mean?
Just being like laid back and like slower talking.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, dude, it feels like
what is going on right
now? I would hang out with them for like a few days. Like I'd go down to Chattanooga, and there would be like 4 or 5 New York guys, and I'd be hanging out with them, and I'd come back and be like, I'm like jabby a little bit.
What is going on right now?
Yeah. It's like they're kind of like that a little bit.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
I mean,
not all of them, not all the time,
style,
but like,
everyone's got to find their own style, man.
Yeah.
I like all of the Southern comics I know that are higher energy and more animated did time in LA or New York or Chicago.
Yeah. Chicago one, that one feels weird. It just feels like just random people just get really good out of Chicago. Yeah. Like Chicago feels like not the scene brings people up. Factory. It's just like the scene's just there, and people can just like use it enough to like get like that girl. She just got here, Amber Aubrey or whatever. She's so good, right?
She has a dry bar special.
She's my god, man, she's great. And
Charlotte
really
comic. Shout out to Don Garrett. He just got a dry bar special.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, dude. I mean, yeah. Like, so Chicago, it doesn't feel like Chicago has like it's kind of the same way like Nashville to me. I don't see people from Chicago and go, yeah, you're a Chicago person. Unless they're kind of improv-y, I guess.
Isn't it weird that like really you can pick out a LA comic and a New York comic, but it doesn't really work that way for like other scenes.
Yeah,
like you
I don't
can't
know.
see a comic like you're from Atlanta.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
and I guess it's like, and I guess probably also the ones that feel that way are like the ones that also grew up there. It's like people that grew up in LA that are LA comics, and people that grew up in New York that are New York comics. It's like those people are staunchly what they are.
Yeah. I don't think I would want to ever start out somewhere like that. Like I'm definitely glad
like
I
where you
found
grew
my
up.
style and my voice. That's what they
voice.
cut my voice.
My voice.
In the South, you know what I mean? Because I'm
yeah.
from the South. I'm glad I built that here.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
now,
yeah.
if I went to New York or LA, I'd
Yeah,
get
it would
to
feel
build off of
wrong
that.
to like learn up there.
Yeah.
Like in retrospect, you know how often, especially since COVID, I like have not a panic. I like just like think about the idea of having not have started comedy before COVID.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is like
Those psychopaths that went through COVID and decided, you know what I'm missing in my life? Stand-up comedy. Let's go. You know, like, ooh.
there's been
Who
plenty of
hurt
these
you?
psychopaths. Yeah, probably
Like
multiple
recently.
people.
Jeez.
But I mean, like, I don't know. It's yeah. I would never like imagine how long the road is for any person that has just started.
I wouldn't do it all over again. That's for sure.
It's like there's no way that you knew. Like, I don't think that anyone would ever do it all. Well, that's not necessarily true. It's like
Some people would sign up for that.
yeah,
abuse.
yeah. Well, there's like a type of abuse that's for whatever people like they really kind of get into. But yeah, like you don't know what it is whenever you first start.
Not at all.
You don't have any idea.
And I mean, I definitely have gotten way farther in it than I ever imagined when I started.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean,
was
even
like,
me
this is
right
gonna be
now.
fun.
This is like
gonna be
further.
a fun couple of years.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like I'm gonna be an idiot for a while before I decide
then
to take
you
myself
You
seriously.
get that addiction. and
Yeah,
like,
dude.
Like my wife can tell. Like she'll be like, "You haven't been on stage recently, have you?" And I was like, "No." She's like, "Please go to an open mic."
Yeah.
I was like, "All right."
Yeah.
Like I took a week off for our honeymoon, and by the end of it, I was like, "You think they'd let me tell jokes in the dining room later on?" You know, like just like not being like it changes my whole personality.
Right.
If I haven't been up in a while.
Yeah. No,
Like I'm definitely not that type of guy. I don't hit 3-4 mics a night. I don't hit 4 mics a week. You know what I mean? But
Sure.
I got shows and
yeah. Well, and plus
stuff
you're
like that.
you're a decade into this game. It's like that's a different.
I just don't. I'm 36. I don't have it in me to hang out at an open mic till midnight anymore.
That's not
you know
the
what I mean?
game. Yeah.
I
And
got
like
a
it's already
9:30
started.
bedtime,
I'm
you know
only
what I
3
mean?
years in. I just now. Actually, still not quite, but I'm like a few weeks away from being 3 years in, and I'm like I could do maybe 3 more years of this before it is like to the point where
daunting.
yeah.
I've done the 3 mics a night and stayed at a club trying to hang out till 2. You know what I mean? Like I've done that part. I don't want to do that anymore.
There's some of it that I still find fun. Like
if I'm there, then for sure. You know what I mean? Like I love a good show and then a good hang afterwards.
Exactly, and like
I just
like,
hate
the thing
sitting in the
about
corner,
mics
like
is,
I
you
hope
just
someone
never
talks
know.
to me.
Yeah, especially in a newer city, and then
Yeah.
the COVID hit like right after you got here. That's so
Jesus
annoying.
Christ, yeah.
And plus, a lot of the people that were around right before that you would have met aren't around like that. Like not because everybody stopped because of COVID, kind of, but like. There was like even the people like Connor and Chance and
So
these
they've
people,
gotten that
exactly
level of success,
they've leveled
you know?
up to the point where you're not seeing them in every single
Yeah,
mic anymore,
yeah.
and it's like only people,
rightfully so, you
yeah,
know what
and
I
great, yeah, also great. But yeah, to then have to go back to mics and be hanging out with exclusively people that have been doing it for less than a year, outside of like a handful of us.
comics, while they're necessary, are nauseating.
They're a necessary evil.
Like I'm glad for the scene,
Yeah.
but also if they're way younger than me, like the worst conversation is like a 21-year-old new comic. I got nothing to
I got nothing
about.
for you.
I got nothing to say,
It's
man.
just exhausting to have
I'm
to
like,
talk
you're new
to
at
him,
life.
yeah.
You're new at comedy. Like I got nothing for you, man.
Yeah.
Nothing. And those are for like if you hang out at an open mic at midnight, those are the ones that want to come talk to you. And I'm like, I'm gonna go run in traffic now. Thank you.
It is nice though sometimes though. Like I've had conversations where somebody knows nothing about comedy, and you can kind of they're like, I don't know what to do, and you can kind of like clear cut lay out what to do, and they leave really thankful, and then I feel really good about myself.
Yeah. See, I'm
Like,
just so pessimistic
that
now. I'm like,
happens
you're
to
not
me.
gonna listen to a thing
Yeah,
I have to
yeah.
say.
They never do. That happened to me. They don't. They seem
Yeah,
really
yeah.
appreciative. I told a guy one time, I gave him this advice, and then I was like, man, just work on your jokes. Show everybody you're trying to work on your jokes and you're trying to be funny. Just start there.
That's all you got.
And then we went to the next mic. He played harmonica for 5 minutes.
Oh my God.
And I was like, that's not what I said. I was like, that's not what I said.
You're sitting in the back of the room like.
I was like, I can't believe this is fucking happening. I was like, I just told.
Like
we
he
just talked
listened
about this.
to nothing.
Yeah, he didn't. I was like, nobody like. He was like, John told me not to play harmonica, but God damn it, I'm doing it anyway. And I was like, this is. in the face of the advice I just gave you not to do.
Cool, man. You took everything I said and did this. But yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I don't know. It's
like I'm all for like I don't get me wrong. If any young comic ever wants any kind of advice, I'll give you what I got. I'm not going to tell you if it's right or not, you know, because I'm still figuring out so much stuff on my own too. But I'll try. But like, I got to have that established relationship before. I got to be pulling for you. You know what I mean? Like I'm not just going to be like, all right.
Come on,
kids, gather round.
It's not Coach Drew.
Yeah, Gramps Drew. Grandpa Drew's got knowledge to drop. You know, but yeah, I mean, there's definitely a right way and a wrong way to go about stuff, and you know, like you can tell early on who's going to be respectful and who's going to, you know, be worth your time and who's not.
It takes a little while, but not long.
Yeah, like they show their true colors.
Yeah.
Okay, you're not going to be here in 3 months, so I'm not going to worry about talking to you.
Yeah, and then occasionally you're wrong.
Yeah,
those are the best ones.
Wrong.
Those are the best ones. Is whenever
then I'll
you're
tell
like,
you
there's no
you
way.
Want to know.
Exactly.
If
it's
you
like,
beat the odds.
Yeah.
Let's talk.
Let's go.
Yeah.
So
I'd love to share a drink with you and just because I want to talk to you now too. Like, how did you figure this out? You know?
It kind of feels like that. Like, I don't know. I don't know. I think. In my time and starting and everything, like there's just a completely incalculable value to what people, without even really asking, will just say.
That's why whenever I see Brad or Aaron or Chance or Connor or any of those guys talking to younger comics, I just want to like thump the dude in the forehead and be like, listen. Just listen. That's all you gotta do.
Yeah, just listen.
Just listen.
Yeah. And then like and everybody's like, we've kind of already gone over, everybody does and goes through a different phase and path of the whole thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And
everyone's got to figure it out for themselves. But I can tell you what did and didn't work.
Exactly.
For me.
Like if you tell me, 10 minutes of a thing and it's like, there's a lot in that thing, a lot of a story, a lot of like your story or whatever. But like in the third minute, there's something that I'm in the kind of throes of right now that kind of relates. And I won't handle it like you, but that's a good idea of some type.
You at least know how I handle it.
You get a piece of a thing and you go, there's something. Now that's a new idea for me. It's like other people do this regularly and they just don't even realize that they do it because they're living their regular lives around people who are living similar-esque lives. And then those people will just say like, this is what I'm doing. And they'll go, that's not exactly what I'm going to do.
Right.
But you actually don't have a good enough idea. I might improve your idea.
Right.
Like this type of shit. And it's like,
if an elder comic has something to say, listen to what he or she is saying to you, but also still form your own
exactly.
way. You know what I mean? Like I'm going to listen to what they said, but also when I'm faced with that decision, I'm also going to use my knowledge.
Right.
Like, because I think the best thing you can do, like I'm so happy, like, yeah, I'd love to be 15 years in now, but I'm glad I started at 26.
Yeah.
Like I can't imagine starting at like 19 and not have anything of substance to say. You know what I mean? Like I'm glad I lived a little bit.
I started at 25, and there was an invisible benefit to that that I didn't understand until like at least a year in.
Yeah,
then
I was just spinning your wheels in your early 20s anyway.
You don't have any. Like I can only imagine what the fuck I would have said in college.
Yeah,
in college, bro, if they would have just given me a mic,
I wouldn't have made it past 3 open mics. You know, I would have been so bad at it. I would have just been like, okay, well, I'm done.
Oh god,
y'all will never see me again. It's fine.
I mean,
because I think you do like. I don't know. At least for me, I had to get a little bit of success early on to like keep going. You know what I mean? Like if I went to like 10 straight open mics and got nothing, I don't know if I would be here. You know what I mean?
That's what I did. I don't know. So you weren't around whenever I first started, but I started beginning of November. I can't ever remember if it was the last week in October or the beginning of November, but right around that time of 2018. And I did not have even a passable set until middle of December one time.
Well,
and I remember the night.
Powered through it because I know me and I know I'm like, well, this isn't fun.
There was a Underdog. It's still there, but it's like revamped.
Yeah.
So the old mic that used to be held in there was called Turn One. It was a NASCAR bar, and Matt Boyd ran that mic. Solid. And there was like, you know how like the Underdog room now is like that whole room that's in there, but there's like that gate that's on the stage.
Yeah.
That like garage door looking thing.
Yeah.
So back behind that, there's another room that is much smaller than
that's what it was.
And that's where the mic was. And so we were in there, right? And there is literally nobody but the 9 or 12 people that are on the show. And this is in my first month. And I go up and I'm doing this joke about about my house getting broken into, and I had written this thing about like my house at the time didn't have a doorbell on the front door. And so I tried to make some sort of stupid knocking on the door joke, comparing it to like a vagina not having a clip. And it was some sort of, I don't even remember what I tried to do. I don't remember what the joke was, but by your face, this is the exact response.
Yeah.
You remember these types of jokes. Yeah. And there was only one, I want to say there was only one. There might have been two, but she was right in front. Do you know Michael Wyman?
Yeah.
Yeah, she was there.
She was the first person to book me in Nashville.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
And she was there. She was sitting like right in front of me. I mean, as far as you are from me, and I'm on stage.
Oh, God. What was the
And I
look on
looked
her
at her in the eyes, and I was like, "You get it, don't you?" Like,
But
like
she's,
it was bad.
but she's
dude.
also got that mom energy about her.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
she
yeah.
probably was like,
no. But she gave me these eyes, bro. She gave me these "you're better than this" eyes of like,
I'm not mad, I'm disappointed.
yeah, exactly. She's like, "Are you really?" Like that sort of like, oh, like almost an eye roll. Like, you're really gonna do this right now? And I was like, I'm a month into comedy.
Yeah.
I don't know what's
This
going on.
is what I'm doing.
But yeah,
Well, I mean, we had
telephone poles looked appetizing that night.
Well, we had to keep telling the young comics that started off in Wilmington because we are so just blessed to have the Dead Crow open mic, which is not a real open mic.
Right.
It's a 30-person showcase.
See, this is
every
exactly
week.
what I said. The open mic that was in the Blue Ridge place. This is why I'm like worried about these other comics
because it was a good show.
Exactly. There's 30 people there, and they're willing to listen every week
on
that they're
any
on
given
this.
night in Wilmington. 60 to 70 people show up for this open mic. Yeah.
That's kind of
So
awesome.
you do anything remotely funny,
It's gonna
and they reward
kind
you.
of do.
Yeah, so I'm not saying I got success early on
Right,
the
right.
right way. You know what I mean? Like, it just happened to make
Yo,
me
dude,
feel
don't
better
feel bad
about
at
it.
all. Mike Merrifield, you know Mike?
Yeah.
He's never done an open mic. Never. He's been doing comedy for 20 years. When he started, he was working at a club as a door guy, and they started letting him go up for like 5 minutes, and then he just kept doing it.
That's
he only ever worked at a
fantastic.
club.
God,
That's why
I'm
he won't
jealous.
come to the mics.
I'm
He'll
jealous
come.
of that guy.
He's actually come to mics,
Yeah.
but he won't go up.
That's
He
fair.
refuses.
I mean, you've gone this far.
Exactly.
Now.
You're 20 years in, bro. You're
Yeah.
fine.
I mean, I think the fact that he made it 20 years, I think he's doing no.
He told me this, and I've been like noticing this more. I'm curious if you've noticed this, the open mic thing, about how people call it mics now. He said like this was the most grandpa take he could ever have, but he was like, yeah, they're not saying open anymore. They're just saying mics. Like, not just any fucking homeless guy can walk up on stage and do what they're doing. And I'm like, you kind of got a point.
Yeah.
His take on that is a lot less valuable after knowing he's never done an open mic.
I know.
It's like, what do you know what it used to be called? You fuck. You didn't go. like you don't know what it is.
Yeah.
You
I
don't
wish
even
I
know
would've
what it is.
Connected that day that he was in here and we talked about it, but
Yeah. Well, he revealed that later. I was like, well, now I'm not. I don't even give a fuck what you
that was
say.
really on him.
He never even gone to an open mic.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
give a fuck.
But no, we had to teach all these young kids in Wilmington because, I mean, eventually we found out the hard way. You know, we went from doing these open mics where we were, you know, they were basically stopping just short of carrying us out on their shoulders. You know what I mean? For garbage jokes.
Right.
And then you go to a real open mic
Right.
and you're like,
Oh. Dude,
and
that
it was
was
so funny. Like, we started a real open mic in Wilmington just
Right.
to show these new comics, like, this is what this is. And you'd have 35 people show up to the good mic, and like 6 would show up to our crap mic.
Right.
And I'm just like, you don't want to do this. You're not trying to do this.
No.
You just want the fame on Thursday night. You're living for Thursday night.
Yeah.
We called them the Thursday night heroes.
And like, listen, man, if you're a hobbyist, be a hobbyist. That's fine.
Yeah.
Like, I almost don't like, people hate on the hobbyist lane in this. I don't get that.
Nah, have a great time. This
No.
is much better hobby than bowling.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
much better. And then also, if you're not as good as a hobbyist, fuck off. Like if you're not getting booked over a hobbyist, like then you're not.
Maybe
You shouldn't be
should be a
worried
hobbyist.
about getting a career. Like,
Well, that's what we would base, because we also booked, you know, shows that
Right.
would have good turnouts.
Yeah,
And we'd be
exactly.
like, if you're not coming to our crap mic, like, you know,
Yep.
like obviously we had the comics that were like, no, you get a pass. Like,
Right,
we know you're working. Like,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
fine.
yeah.
Like, I've never equated.
There's always
to
lines in the
going to
sand. These
mics.
aren't hard
You know what I
lines.
mean? I wasn't
Yeah.
like, you got to be at mics to be working. You
Right.
know what I mean? But like, young comics, that's a good way to show you are working.
Right.
So that's how we would like base everything off of, and we these Micers would come to us and be like, why am I not on your show?
And it does work. It's like you see these guys that are in our scene, like John and Shane, that are writing so much and that they hit every single mic, and it's like, yeah, dude, it's working. You're getting better.
Like I said, it works for everybody. You
Right.
know what I mean? Like, get out of it what you need to get out of it. You know what I mean? Like, I'll definitely, like, go to mics when I need to work on something. You know what I mean? But I'm just not going to go for the sake of going. You know, and I understand that about people. I'm not ever like, well, if you don't go to mics, you're never working again. Like, but these kids would they'd go up 4 times a month, and it'd be every Thursday at open mic, and then they'd be like, well, I want to do your show. I was like, get up more than 4 times a month, and we'll talk. Like,
were they ever trying different stuff?
Sometimes they would, but you definitely get the people that would recite the same 4 minutes every single week, because that's just what they did on Thursdays. You know what I mean? Like, this is my Thursday set. Like, it's your only set. It can't be your Thursday set if you're only going up on Thursdays.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I can almost never even imagine at this point going up that infrequently.
Yeah, I mean,
like, it would be like to the point where you're talking about earlier, your wife telling you and being like, you should go do a set. It's like, that's what it does to you over a certain amount of time. Yeah. It's like you'll start to miss it unless, like, I don't know, whenever I'm not here, it's a little easier to not think about.
Right.
But whenever I'm here, to not think about trying to go to a mic or something, that feels insane.
Yeah.
To like at least have it to be a consideration. It's like, what am I doing tonight?
It is nice, available? Like, as you get older, like, and you've been doing this a little while, that guilt goes away a little bit.
Of like not doing something?
And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. You know what I mean? Like, I can miss a mic and be like, And I remember when I first started out, I was like, oh God, I got to miss a mic this week. Oh no. Like, I felt that guilt, and it goes away. And I mean, it makes you feel better, but at the same time, you're like,
maybe the guilt is helpful.
I probably should have gone to that mic last night.
There's the connection of, like, how much, there's always that shakedown of, like, whatever.
Because I mean, at the end of the day, you're your biggest critic. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter if other comics are telling you you're not working. Like, if you feel like you're not working, that's the biggest hurt.
Also, can I just say that this is the most comedian conversation I've ever probably partaken. Like as far as just strictly just talking about comedy, 100% almost the whole time that we've been here.
I mean, after ass eating, we had to go somewhere.
I know. we had to really go. No, this has been good with it. I like this, man. Yeah, this has been great. I don't want to keep you too long. We're past 3. How long have we been going?
It's an hour and a half. I got to get going here.
Okay, cool. All right, well, Drew, thank you so much. I'm sure we'll be seeing each other around.
Dude.
Drew Harrison, everybody, check him out if you have anything. There's not anyone watching, but go ahead.
Yeah. Instagram @LaughWithHarrison. You can find everything at DrewHarrisonComedy.com.
Oh, yeah,
so got links to everything, all that good stuff.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.